Okay, so we're running just a couple minutes behind. Everybody has lots of questions for the SLA, which is right before us. I have the pleasure of introducing Tara Hankinson. She is the co-founder and co-CEO of TALEA Beer. On a mission to make craft beer market more inclusive, Tara has built a brand that pairs high-quality, approachable beers with a signature focus on hospitality. Today, TALEA operates 5 design-forward taprooms across New York City, from their original home in Williamsburg to locations across Manhattan and Brooklyn. I have been lucky enough to be into 2 of them so far, so thank you. And before I hand over the mic to Tara, I would like to introduce you to the sponsor of the seminar, USTA.
Hey, now people are starting to look familiar. So some of you have seen me do this speech about 4 times already today. Hello everyone, I'm Rob Gordon. I'm with the United States Tennis Association. In case you don't know who the USTA is, we are the governing body of American tennis. And we also host this little tournament, not a big deal, in Flushing, New York every year. It's called the US Open, it's not a big deal. Anyway, why am I here? Why am I here at a Brewers Association conference? Why am I here? Because we want to bring revenue to your tap room's slow nights. And how do we do it? We do it through tennis. How do you do tennis at your bar, brewery, tap room? We provide the equipment, and we provide player, like in the weeds about that, we provide a lot of stuff for you, and it's free. And what we do is we offer a way to bring players in, or people who've never played tennis before, people who've played tennis before. We do a social league, is the primary thing that we do that's pretty successful. In North Carolina, there is a beer league that has between 500 and 800 players, and it's played between 13 breweries. What I do in Orlando is I have one place, and we have between 50 and 85 players, and it generates revenue on a Tuesday night. It's a few hours, and it brings money into the bar. How it's different than other things you may do, I'm a trivia host as well. But if you have a neighborhood where you have 4 bars doing trivia on the same night, that's a problem. If you have 4 bars doing brewery tennis all together, that's a circuit. So we want to bring you revenue. We're offering you the stuff for free. Come talk to us. We're at booth 106 upstairs, and we're excited to talk to you about bringing revenue to your bar on a slow night, making it the place to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'm here to talk about taproom economics. I'm Tara, and I first want to thank not only this organization for giving me the opportunity to speak, but my brew team's here in the back, so no pressure there. And without beer, we wouldn't have taprooms, so it is the lifeblood of our business, and I'm sure yours too. So thank you for coming and making me nervous. It's a nice small group, so if you have any questions, please just raise your hand, because I want to be an open book. And if you know me and Leanne, my co-founder, we don't really hide anything. We're just excited to be part of the industry, excited to learn from you all, and most of this is about a lot of the mistakes we've made in the last 5 years of operating taprooms. So if you don't know us, who we are a craft brewery out of Williamsburg, Brooklyn. We are brewing and selling over 7,000 barrels a year. Our customer base is primarily women, and because of our focus on expanding craft beer, we've targeted a lot of really fun brands to collaborate with. So Tabasco, Fishwife, Canned Fish Company. We also distribute in New York City, New York State, southeastern Pennsylvania, and northern New Jersey. And our 5 tap rooms are all across the city, and hopefully signing a lease on the Upper West Side in the next 2 weeks, which will be fun.
Where?
In the 80s. It's not off the market yet, so you know. Warby Parker swooped in on our last Upper West Side space we almost leased, and we probably spent 10 grand negotiating that lease before they just can't really compete with the guarantee Warby Parker has. But all of this is under the context of knowing your customer. So this is a collaboration we did with Flamingo, which is a women's shaving company that's owned by the parent company Harry's Razors. And they approached us to do a shower beer with them. So it was a raspberry lime lager. This was in Marie Claire, well, the website, not print. But my whole point here is that I totally get that we have a very specific customer base and that works for us. It might not work for you. So what I wanted to do is just share the kind of things we do, but most of this presentation is about how you can apply some of our learnings to your business or just deep dive into little parts of your business to hopefully make your tap rooms more profitable. Agenda, walking through some economic high-level things, benchmarks, and then some specific examples from product and pricing and labor and supplies. So if you haven't had our beer, we are known for sours. Our flagship beer is an Italian-style Pilsner. That's our best seller. We do a lot of seasonals. We do a lot of IPs, hazy West Coast, and we make some classic German styles too. So we have 4 or 5 core beers that we keep year-round, but I love the sours because they're beautiful. So taproom economics, just to put it simply, you're looking at sales, which is price times volume, and then your profit is your sales minus your costs. So the different levers you can pull in that equation are selling more or raising prices, so the volume times price equation, or lowering your costs. And the thing about our industry last year, besides that it sucked, was that there's a lot of things we can't control. In New York, we got 2 snowstorms that were over 15 inches in the span of a month. I can't call it spring, whatever, January, February. The city ground to a halt. Like, all the public schools canceled, subways just MIA. And it's great that that didn't happen on a Saturday, but even it happening on a Monday is bad for business. And we can't control Gen Z. I don't think any of them are in here with us, so that's good. But you know they aren't drinking the way the millennial alcoholics of my generation did. But what we've seen in studies is that as Gen Z is approaching 27, 28, they are drinking in parity with millennials. So they just need to age up and grow up a little bit and realize that they're not going to get ahead socially in the corporate world by popping a gummy at a corporate mixer. So once that happens, or once they want to, meet someone and be social at a bar, they will drink, is my belief, genuinely. But we can control the products we sell, the way we price them, and how we're sourcing those products. So AI, I think someone else is speaking at this exact same moment about AI, but I just wanted to give a really clear-cut example of something I did to kind of test and proof out our income statement for our taproom, or profit and loss statement, P&L. So I put in this little 3-sentence thing. I'm the owner of a brewery with satellite taprooms in New York City. Beer is our primary sales driver, but we also sell wine, cocktails, food, merch, and non-alcoholic options. Almost no merch, so if anyone has recommendations for that, no one buys our shit. What are the standard benchmarks for percentage of sales and percentage of costs for a 1,500 square foot bar with our business model in New York City? Literally word for word. And I put it into Gemini, which is Google's AI platform. And it spit out some pretty interesting sales percentages that just off the cuff felt like they made sense for our business. And the reason I wanted to do this was to see how we stacked up against these assumptions. Are there opportunities where essentially the entire world of the internet and any text that's being put into this platform thinks that we should be selling more packaged beer? Because in this scenario, on the left side, you can see Gemini's percentage of sales versus our actual 2025 product mix across all 5 tap rooms across the whole year. So only 5% of our sales in our tap rooms were from packaged beer. I didn't say this earlier, but out of those 7,000 plus barrels we brew, 75% of them go out to wholesale. So we are in Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Fresh Direct, but 75% of our revenue as a business comes from our tap rooms. So if every Union Beer delivery truck shut down tomorrow, we would still be open as long as people could get in our tap rooms. And that means that this is also where the majority of our profit is coming from. This is how we're keeping the lights on. This is how we're continuing to reinvest in our business. So that makes me a little sad that only 5% of the beer, only 5% of our sales are people taking those 4-packs to go. But out of 5 tap rooms, we only have beer merchandised in refrigerators for people to grab from in 2 of them. So those are the kind of insights I was hoping the robots could tell me. So I did the same thing with costs to kind of gut check, again, where are we at versus the entirety of the internet. And one thing just to look out for is, and this has happened when I use Gemini for legal advice instead of our lawyer Elke back there, but they don't have the correct minimum wage. Is $5, they're saying minimum wage is $16.50, tipped minimum wage in New York City is $11.35. Is that going to mess up a fake financial model I'm building off of the internet? Maybe, maybe not. But the point is, question everything. So let's see how that stacks up. When we look at our cost of goods sold, we have packaged beer, so Gemini says we should be at about 30% of the total sales should be the cost of that packaged beer. We're at 20%. Good. Draft beer is even better. So only 4% of our total sales are our cost of draft beer. So 96% margin for our draft beer, which is insanely good because we charge really, really high prices because we're in New York City and we have an amazing brewing team who's getting, saving a penny per pound and making sure their palette of Oregon fruit is fully maximized so that price for shipping per pound of fruit makes sense. But at the same time, 41% of the sales in our tap room are all of this other stuff. Cocktails, wine, food, coffee and beer, merchandise, and slushies. We sell a lot of slushies in the summer. So when I'm thinking about each one of these items that's going into our product mix, I'm looking at those beer unit economics. So our brewers and Leanne, my business partner, are responsible for making sure that every barrel is profitable, whether it's going to wholesale or the tap room. But when it comes to the tap room and we're literally transferring it over in Ecos to our tap rooms, then that keeping those cogs down is the responsibility of the managers, because if they're wasting beer in the draft lines and they're not fully selling the keg, or if someone's stealing, that's going to show up in this 4% of draft beer being the cost. The other thing with the other stuff, the all other 41%, is that our team is pricing out every cocktail in a little sheet with, what are the cogs, how much seltzer is going in it, how much vodka, blah, blah, blah. And that's great to try and hit a certain number in the recipe, but what's actually happening behind the bar when someone drops a bottle of vodka or someone comps a drink and forgets to bring it in, all of that is going into this 25% when we're looking at these numbers on a monthly basis. Yes?
For your draft beer, that seems really low. Is that because you're selling it to yourself at the cost?
We are selling it at the cost of goods sold, not including the labor. Labor goes to the overhead of the business. So our goal is having each one of our tap rooms be really profitable, and then they're paying for the overhead, which includes me too, but also the brewers and marketing and private events team. So it's not the same as comping, like comparing to what you would buy from a wholesaler, but this is our business model, right? We always view the tap room as taking the most profitable part of a restaurant, which is the bar, and then vertically integrating it. So this is our competitive advantage, is having the cost of the beer being low. We also charge a lot more than a lot of other breweries, and we know that, but we're also paying a lot more in rent because we're in really premium locations in the city, and we paid a lot more to build those spots out because we use an architect and an interior designer, and we have nice furniture. The first slide was our Cobble Hill tap room, and so we are comparing ourselves to any other way a New Yorker could spend, $40 on a Saturday afternoon in the city, and that means our space needs to be as nice as the nicest cocktail bars. Our hospitality needs to be as great as going to a nice restaurant, and because of that, we're comfortable charging $10 to $13 for a 12 to 14 ounce pour. So it's about $1 an ounce. So the beer I'm not worried about. Leanne and the brewers can worry about the beer. I am worried about garnishes. I'm really worried about them because I found out we were spending 37 cents a slice for a dried wedge of lime. So we bought dehydrators for $100, and now our cost per slice of lime is 5 cents. Now, it's a quarter you're saving, but sometimes on the weekends we sell like 200 margaritas out of our Williamsburg location, which has a full liquor license. So 200 times 25 cents is what, $50? So then over every Saturday, 52 Saturdays in a year, you're really starting to see the difference when you have multiple locations. It can't be as loosey-goosey as like, oh, I forgot to get pita on my US Foods order, I'm gonna go run down to Whole Foods. That stuff really starts to add up when you're doing it at scale the way we are. Another way we save or reduce costs in our cocktails is we used to buy a lot of New York State liqueurs, and now we do a lot of infusions. So our team will do we have a new cocktail that's gin infused with fennel and gin infused with apricot, and then I forget what else is in it. It's shaken with basil, arugula in the shaker, and it turns into this green cocktail. And we can use, New York State vodka that's really cheap, that's 10 or 11 bucks for a 750 milliliter bottle, instead of buying a specialty liqueur. Of course, I want to support New York producers. We're a New York State farm brewery, but when you're cutting the cost of the alcohol in half going into a cocktail and someone's willing to pay $17 or $18 for that, that makes a big difference. Flowers. Okay, maybe not all of these are sexy to you, but we used to have our managers just pick up flowers on their way into work once or twice every other week or every week. And they would just buy random things from Trader Joe's and Whole Foods. We found a flower wholesaler who delivers the flowers overnight to us. They have the master lock key and they go in and drop them off. They last longer because they're fresh, they're not from a grocery store. They cost about the same, and then every votive in the tap room has pretty fresh flowers because for us, we believe people eat and drink with their eyes, and if the table looks nice and there's a pretty flower on it and someone's going to take a photo, that just continues to reinforce what we're trying to do with high quality hospitality in a beautiful space. They're called Botanical Brothers if you're in New York. More product changes. So we also started making our own house-made lemonades for a non-alc option. Sure, people spend $4 or $5 on a Diet Coke, but if we can charge $8 for a house-made lemonade, then we can charge an extra $5 for them to add a shot of vodka in it, that's great. We, this year, raised the price of our flagship beer, Al Dente, by $1, and that's going to bring us an extra $40,000 in profit this year. We hadn't changed the price in years, and it just felt like it was time. It's been tough for our industry. We want to make sure we are financially viable, and raising the price by $1 is one way to do that. We actually started making our own cold brew. So we cut the cost of, we're open during the day, which I'll get into in a little bit, but we cut the cost of cold brew from $125 for a 6-still to $55 with 2 hours of labor that we're using during downtime anyway, where our brewers are salaried, so they're already working. And it's better quality beans. We can make it on demand. We have supply issues with a lot of places like cold brew and getting wines from New York State wineries. So we decided to make our own. We also added sourdough pizza to 2 of our locations. It was a $5,000 to $10,000 commitment to buy the pizza ovens, get all the machinery to the dough hook and blah, blah, blah. But it increased our food sales by about 8% overall. And for example, last week we sold 100 pizzas at one of our tap rooms that we wouldn't have sold beforehand. So all of these things, we're just continuing to do these changes to try and really raise the top line and lower the costs so we have a healthier bottom line. Other costs, so it's not just COGS, right? We have all these other costs that go into running a tap room. Labor, notably, which is tough because your people are your brand representatives. You know, for us as breweries, we don't have direct to consumer. We can't just send an email and sell $30,000 of beer to ship all over the country because shipping laws are really messed up for our industry. So we really view our bartenders and managers as the brand ambassadors, the people actually talking to the customers. And for us, it's not just about telling them about TALEA, it's about getting them excited about craft beer overall. When someone comes in and they're like, you know, I don't really drink beer, I just thought this was a convenient place to get a drink, we're trying to convert them, get them to try our spicy margarita sour, and eventually maybe they'll try, ooh, a lager, so scary, and then one day maybe they'll try an IPA, who knows, girl can dream. But labor is expensive in New York, and it's expensive because we are an owner, operator, bartender, brewers. We have a whole team with infrastructure so that we don't have to be the ones running there in the middle of the night when someone throws a trash can through the front window of a tap room, which has happened. There's also rent. New York City rent is really expensive. But these were the assumptions from Gemini, and honestly, they're kind of spot on. So at the end of the year, across our 5 tap rooms, 29% of what we sold was profit to the bottom line. That was our net income, which is great. But our goal is 40%. And some of our tap rooms are at 40%, especially during certain periods of the year. Like Q2 is our black quarter. April, May, June is really healthy. And then July and August comes and everyone leaves New York City and goes to the beach. So I got a lot riding on the next few months, but 29% isn't good enough for us. We wanted to take it to the next level. So in early December, we did an evaluation looking back at the last 12 months. And these are kind of ridiculous, but I want to show you the examples of how deep we're going to just try and really be sure that we're doing everything we can to make our business sustainable and so that we can rationalize when we make decisions that are tough for us as a business, like letting go of a brewer, letting go of a manager. No one wants to make those decisions, but when you do it with data and it's like, this is the right thing for the business. So on the top, we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The column is the hours, so 10 to 11 o'clock, 11 to 12, 1 to 2. And the question was, should we be open in the morning? Because at Williamsburg, we are open 10 to 10 every day. The concept was come for coffee, stay for happy hour. You can work from TALEA. And we loved that. We loved the idea of being a third place in the neighborhood. But when we looked at, for example, all Mondays across last year from 10 to 11 o'clock, if we assume that we had one manager and one bartender working, because as a woman-owned brewery, we don't like to have one person opening by themselves. We want multiple people to be there. Especially Williamsburg, it's a 9,000 square foot space overall, and there's usually a brewer there, but honestly, I don't like opening or closing by myself. So with that assumption, we actually lost $1,400 during that hour in aggregate over the year. So 52 Mondays, that's not that much money you're losing on any given Monday, but in total, we just shouldn't be open during those hours. And when we started looking at other hours, like at closing time, obviously we shouldn't be open 9 to 10 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're clearly losing money every single weekday. So, the point of this is that even though on some Mondays we were profitable, when you take the sales from 10 to 11 a.m. and you subtract out the hourly manager, who's maybe making $29 an hour, and the bartender who's making $11.35 plus tips, actually we were losing money and we should close. So then we did this. Super easy to follow. The question was, are there any times of the year that we should be open at 10 and 11 a.m. during the weekdays? So the top Christmas tree, or whatever the hell this is 10 to 11 a.m. And the row across the top is every week of the year, 1 through 53. And then on the left side, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which is Monday through Sunday, 7 being Sunday. And what you can see is that on row here, this row, the second one from the top, every Monday of the year, is bad for 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. So this validates that sometimes, for example, we have a location in Bryant Park, there's a holiday market, and it's really cute and very touristy, and a lot of New Yorkers go as well. And actually, we should have longer hours when that holiday market is there. But in this case, Williamsburg should never be open from 10 to 11 a.m. on a Monday. There is 2 profitable Monday from 10 to 11 a.m. Same thing for 11 a.m. Monday through Friday, we should just not be open. But you can see this row, that's Sundays, 10 to 11. We have a kids sing-along class. The parents love to come and have a beer at 10:30 in the morning while their kids are doing sing-along class. Parents got a drink too. So the solution was, we used to be open 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. Now, the hours just roll off the tongue. Monday to Thursday, 12 to 9. Friday, 12 to 10. Saturday, 11 to 10. And Sunday, 11 to 9. I can't even keep it straight, and I work here. But it actually saved us $17,000 in losses for the whole year. And we did this exercise for all of our tap rooms for the first 3 hours were open. Any hours that seemed questionable, which is, first 3 or 4 hours you're open, last 3 or 4 hours before the end of the day. And we actually found $65,000 in savings that we would have saved last year, that obviously we hope will translate to savings this year. And that required,
Do you worry at all, because I've done similar things, do you worry at all about sending the message that you're not open at an hour on different days? Right? Like sometimes does it make sense to run at a loss to keep a consistent hour open so the perception to the customer is, yes, they're open at this hour. I can see the weekends, it makes a point, but sometimes I take that into consideration. Like if you close at a different time, they might think that time is every day of the week or they open at a different time. Is that really the process at all?
Yeah, I think that's why it was so hard to leave behind 10 to 10. It just sounded good. But the reality is people weren't organically not there. And I think it's also different for what type of establishment you are. This location is in a neighborhood. It's a very neighborhoody spot. And so, not many people in that neighborhood are out at 9 p.m. on a Sunday anyway. It was sort of, we could have said soft close, but I would rather publish strict hours than disappoint someone who's walking in and the bartender's like, oh, I gotta get out of here because I thought I was leaving at 9:30. And with this came some tough decisions, which is that we used to have 3 full-time salaried managers at this location. And instead, we now have one GM who works Monday through Thursday, so she gets in at 11 and she leaves at 10. She works a 4-day work week that's longer. And then 2 managers, the 2 managers who were working there before, but now they work 2 or 3 shifts a week at other locations of ours. And so that shuffle caused a cascade effect where we did have to, overall as a business, let people go because we kept the longest standing best managers and gave them shifts at other locations. But in reality, we almost only have 2.2 full-time salaried people instead of 3, so it's actually a huge savings for us. And generally we just prefer salaried managers because we want them to grow their careers with us versus hourly, but that creates a whole new barrier because you need them to be, you can't just call off a shift of a salaried person. Paper goods. We love straws and vinyl gloves, but let me tell you something. We spend probably hundreds of thousands of dollars on paper towels and stuff. So we had been using US Foods and Amazon, and then we found this other provider, Paramount, and we had our head of business ops, who's essentially just my personal Gemini, who I ask him questions all the time, and he pulled all these prices and did a per unit cost of everything and found that actually Paramount, this provider who I've never even heard of, has the best prices on almost everything consistently, and we should just consolidate to them. So for example, Seafold paper towel, 0.16 cents, who cares? 1.1 cent, who cares? 0.9 cents. actually, when you start to model it out, and it's like, well, we might have around 500,000 customers in a year. And if everyone goes to the bathroom on average once, and 80% of people use a paper towel and the other people just wipe their hands on their pants, which is fine, that's 400,000 paper towels. And if the kitchen team is using paper towels while they're prepping food, that might be 60 to another 100,000 paper towels. Okay, it's only $3,200, but like I would love to give our brewers $3,200 to buy some awesome New Zealand hops instead of spending it on paper towels just for the convenience of ordering on Amazon. So that is just a good example of a silly little exercise, but when you look at it in aggregate, it actually matters. We did the same thing with bar towels, like the ones that they pick up, they launder them for you, and they return a bag because, you know, our back bar, I don't know about you all, but it gets very watery, very beery, so we have a lot of towels. And we were getting deliveries once a week from 2 different providers. And our head of business ops called them and negotiated with them, and across our 5 locations, we ended up saving $10,000 for this year. We'll save $10,000 just by paper, or not even paper, getting towels delivered from the right people, which is crazy. Not that sexy, but that's okay. So there's other stuff we do that is not as cut and dry as saving 1 cent on an agave straw instead of a paper straw. But for our brand, these are things that we view as an investment, and the whole concept is investing money in our space will help people stay longer, and if people stay longer, they spend more money. During peak hours, maybe you don't want them to stay, so you want to get them out the door so a fresh person can come in, because once someone had 3 or 4 beers, the law of diminishing returns, they won't keep drinking at the same rate. But let's assume that most days aren't Saturday at 3 p.m. at our tap rooms, and we do want people to hang around. So we invested in installing florals in our Bryant Park location for the whole season, spring through fall, and then we do holiday decorations there. It costs thousands of dollars, but people genuinely love it. It differentiates our space from every other Irish pub in Midtown Manhattan or the high-end cocktail bars where cocktails are $25. We want to sit in the middle, but really playing into the seasonality has helped our brand. Sampling. You know, I know people hate flights. We do flights, what can I say? But I think as a bartender, there's nothing more annoying than having people sample through every single thing and they just can't make up their mind, and you're like, trust me, you should have this. But what we have decided as a company is that we want people to sample. Trialing is an opportunity, it's a way to stall the conversation, to share more information with them about the brand. It shows that you as a business have a confidence that you're gonna help that person find what they want. And because we don't make every single style under the sun, we have a lot of, 2 West Coast IPAs on the menu, 2 double IPAs, 5 sours on the menu at any given time. How's someone going to navigate that if they don't know our brand? They don't even know craft beer, period. So right now we're moving into a policy where we want everyone who walks through the door to try at least 2 things. And that's going to be, when you're slammed at 5 p.m. on a Saturday, it's not going to happen, I get that. But the other, 100 hours that we're open during a week, it can happen. And there's a power of reciprocity. I'm sure we've all been to those restaurants or hotels where they give you free popcorn or a free dessert. Like, I'm still talking about it. Everyone loves a free sample. I love Costco for that reason. Furniture. So we have a space across from Penn Station, and we invested in swapping out some of our high top tables for this couch lounge feel. And at first, when we opened this space, it's a pop-up only through the end of this year, and we thought, we're gonna pack people in, we gotta get these like industrial strength tables so people can come, hit it and quit it, have 2 beers and get on Long Island Railroad or New Jersey Transit home. But what we found is that there are already a lot of transactional bars in that neighborhood where you're just, handing your credit card across the counter and getting a beer back. So a couple weeks ago, we invested in this lounge type setting, and it's funny, it's the first place people go to when they walk in. Did it cost money? Yes, but is it differentiating us? Is it keeping people there? Is it like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get to happy hour 5 minutes earlier next time so I can get that spot in the tap room? That's my favorite table or whatever. Glassware, we upgraded and we continue upgrading our glassware to true cocktail glassware. So Nick and Nora glasses, Collins glasses, Rocks glasses. 4 of our tap rooms don't have full liquor licenses, so just New York State spirits and wines. But we find that people drink with their eyes, and there's this effect of seeing a beautiful cocktail walk past where then everyone wants to order it. We're a brewery, so maybe we shouldn't feel like that is something we want to do, but the reality is that even at 96% margin, if we're selling a beer for $11, so we're pocketing like $10, $10.25 off of that. But this cocktail, it's an espresso martini, maybe we're selling for $17 and it only costs $3. So actually on a per unit basis, we're putting $14 in our pocket instead of $10.50. Beer will always be the heart of the business, but it's not bad to order a cocktail. And that's all I've got, but I know there's a lot of data in there. I'm just really love data and love validating all these assumptions that we make, because I think there's so much creativity around beer, but when it really comes down to making our business work and feeling confident in the decisions we're making, like moving to 6-pack boxes, which is an adventure in and of itself, we really want to make those data-driven decisions. So thank you. Yeah.
What do you use to get that profitability? What do you use to price out your menu? Do you use a third-party software? Do you use Excel spreadsheets?
So, for example, determining what the price would be for something and how we get the COGS. So, for wine and cocktails and food, and even, I mean, there are certain metrics we're trying to hit where that we want a cocktail cost to be under 15%, because in reality it's going to be closer to 20 when people drop things or the ingredients go bad and we have to toss them. So that's just a little calculator in a spreadsheet. But then when we actually go to when we actually go to look at what we're selling, we're looking at the actual numbers that come in. So we're building it in a model where it's saying, okay, 750 milliliter bottle is $10. So on a per ounce basis for this cocktail, we use 2.5 ounces. That's a little calculator in a spreadsheet, but that is the hypothetical, that's the theory, and then the in practice is like looking at what comes in when it gets classified and actually looking at an income statement to say, all of our alcohol vendors last month were X amount of money, divide that by the money we spent, the money that came in from cocktails, and then we're getting those actual percentages. I would say that's where using something like Gemini to say what is a good range for a New York State made martini priced at X amount could be. But we also our prices are consistent across all of our locations, but we're also looking at our competitors. So we know we're not going to be the most expensive, but we're not going to be the cheapest. So literally when we will open on the Upper West Side, we'll look and we'll say, okay, let's look at 10 restaurants in this area. What are they pricing their glasses of wine at? Okay, if they're pricing it at $16, $17 for a glass of Sancerre, what wines can we buy that are going to be, $15 wholesale price, because we want to price a glass at the same price as the wholesale price of the bottle, which is a pretty standard wine pricing metric. In theory, in practice, I take the wine home and that messes up our COGS because I don't bring it into the point of sale. Oops. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How do you balance data-driven metrics for making changes like in the Penn Station location for couches versus high tops versus like something that's intuitive or opinions based on locals or regulars?
That location is doing so badly that we're like, anything, let's just do anything to fix it. It's breaking even, but it's a pop-up, so that's great. It's a percentage of rent deal, which helps. And for us, just people, we have a lot of pre and post MSG customers, so they're going to the Rangers game. Okay, we have TVs there. We don't have TVs at any of our other locations. So we're really also just trying to throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. But anecdotally, qualitatively, we could see that the flow of customers was not working. People weren't settling in and hanging out. There were a lot of people standing around. To me, that meant we didn't have the right seating configurations. We got some smaller high tops instead of these 8-person giant, 3-foot wide bar height high tops. We got small round ones, and people are gravitating towards that in the bar. And then we were just like, what is this space? What is it functioning as? We have TVs here. What if it were more like someone's living room? And then we're doing a pop-up, a tap takeover with the Brewery Everywhere from California. And Leanne and I used to work with one of the founders. So the concept was roommates. And we were like, let's make this look like a 70s living room, because again, anything goes at this point with that space. So while I made that sound strategic, I think there is sometimes just a frustration where you have to try something new. And in this case, because we are growing, we are like mentally saying, well, we'll reuse those couches for sure. I don't know. Cool. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
I think your to-go sales was lower than what Gemini predicted. Maybe something that is maybe an area for growth. Is that something that you want to grow sort of quantitatively, or there's some subjective things in there well, I don't know if I want to add more coolers to my space and it creates the aesthetic of it's more like a convenience store and I don't like that. What's your thoughts there?
I think the trade-off there is in a space that only has 1,000 square feet that's customer facing. The aesthetic doesn't bother me, but is that 48-inch by 36-inch or whatever cooler making more money on a per square inch basis than 2 more bar stools? And probably not, because the margins on packaged beer aren't that good. We have it behind the bar in a cooler and we have signs on the walls, but at the end of the day, people drinking on premise is more profitable for us. And we view wholesale as a profitable marketing arm for the business, so I'm okay if they go and buy our beer at Trader Joe's and Whole Foods. That's still serving me. And I also think the behavior of New Yorkers is different because most people are walking or taking the subway. How much beer is someone going to carry with them? That's why I think Williamsburg and Cobble Hill do really well, because people come grab a 4-pack after they have a beer or two, versus you're going, meeting a colleague at the office in Midtown, and then, who knows where you're going after that? Are you going to carry a 4-pack? Maybe 1 train beer, and we charge a lot for a single can, but 19.2s are nice for that. But yeah, I think my wish though is that we don't distribute all of our beer through wholesale, so the other goal is to attract people to our spaces to get those high-priced sours that just, the margin will never make sense for Whole Foods. They won't sell enough of it for them to carry it. So a lot of our beers don't really make it out to wholesale unless it's to a beer specialty shop. And then that's capping the number of people who can try those amazing beers. Yeah, thank you.
That actually answered my question, because I had wondered about the wholesale side.
Yeah.
What do you do around controlling labor, monitoring, labor, something, cost calculations are you doing those on a regular basis? Are you incenting managers to hit the labor target?
Mm-hmm. We are, so we use 7 shifts as our labor platform for clocking in and out. It integrates with Toast, which is our point of sale. And our goal is that they're keeping hourly labor at 7.5% to 9% of the day's sales, and in 7 shifts. I know it sounds crazy to be like, oh, 7.5. Well, we just missed it. It was 8%. But in 7 shifts, it has pretty good predictive modeling for what next week's or a month from now sales are, because we've been open. All of our spaces have been open a year, so you can look at, what was March 15th last year, and it puts it in there. So when you're building your schedule, it shows you a predicted percentage. Obviously, when you have 2 freaking snowstorms and you gotta call off all your shifts, but you still have to pay people 3 hours because they showed up for work or they were going to show up for work, that's going to mess with it. But I think the bigger opportunity there is just having that as a target in mind. And then also we're paying, taxes, so it's actually not just 7.5%, it's more like 9%. So I think the manager balancing, leaning out manager hours so that we're saving a little bit there, but still the people are the most important thing. They're not just handling the cash important, they're the face of the company. And so in reality though, fewer labor hours are better for bartenders' tips. And so that is part of the message we're sending, is like, in these transition months where it's, Jan, Feb, March, and times are leaner because people aren't going out when it's 30 degrees and they're not hanging out for a long time, we're going to cut your hours, but you're actually going to bring home a similar paycheck. You're just not working that long, but you're still going to work for the peak and you're still going to get tips for the peak. So it's definitely, that's where I think we like to invest in the managers, because they need to instill the confidence in those employees and be working with them one-on-one. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'll see everyone today and tomorrow. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.